Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we'll be reading more Ideas and Opinions of Albert Einstein. Today we'll be reading a piece called Physics and Reality, but it's a long piece. To give you an example, page 290 to 322. So we'll not be reading all of this today. I'm going to start breaking this down into just the sections since it does have them kind of separated that way. So we'll do it that way. Anyway, the blurb reads from the Journal of the Franklin Institute, volume 221, number 3, March 1936. General consideration concerning the method of science. It has often been said, and certainly not without justification, that the man of science is a poor philosopher. Why then should it not be the right thing for the physicist to let the philosopher do the philosophizing? Such might indeed be the right thing uh, at a time when the physicist believes he has at his disposal a rigid system of fundamental concepts and fundamental laws, which are so well established that waves of doubt cannot reach them. But it cannot be right at a time when the very foundations of physics itself have become problematic as they are now. At a time like the present, when experience forces us to seek a newer and more solid foundation, the physicist cannot simply surrender to the philosopher the critical contemplation of the theoretical foundations, for he himself knows best and feels more surely where the shoe pinches. In looking for a new foundation, he must try to make clear in his own mind just how far the concepts which he uses are justified and are necessities. The whole of science is nothing more than a refinement of everyday thinking. It is for this reason that the critical thinking of the physicist cannot possibly be restricted to the examination of the concept of his own specific field. He cannot proceed without considering critically a much more difficult problem, the problem of analyzing the nature of everyday thinking. Our psychological experience contains, in colorful succession, sense experiences, memory pictures of them, images, and feelings. In contrast to psychology, physics treats directly only of sense experience and of the and of the understanding of the connection. But even the concept of real external world of everyday thinking rests exclusively on sense impressions. Now, we must first remark that the differentiation between sense impressions and the images is not possible, or at least it is not possible with absolute certainty. With the discussion of this problem, which affects also the notion of reality, we will not concern ourselves, but we shall take the existence of sense experiences as given, that is to say, as psychic experiences of a special kind. I believe that the first step in the setting of the real external world is a formation of the concept of bodily objects and of bodily objects of various kinds. Out of the multitude of our sense experiences, we take mentally and arbitrarily certain repeatedly occurring complexes of sense impressions, partly in conjunction with sense impressions which are interpreted as signs for sense experiences of others, and we correlate to them a concept, the concept of the bodily object. Considered logically, this concept is not identical with the totality of sense impressions referred to, but it is a free creation of the human or animal mind. On the other hand, this concept owes its meaning and its justification exclusively to the totality of the sense impressions which we associate with it. The second trip or step is to be found in the fact that in our thinking, which determines our expectation, we attribute to this concept of the bodily object a significance which is to a high degree independent of the sense impressions which originally give rise to it. This is what we mean when we attribute to the bodily object a real existence. The justification of such concepts and mental relations between them, we are able to orient ourselves in the labyrinth of sense impressions. These notions and relations, although free mental creations, appear to us as stronger and more unalterable than the individual sense experience itself, the character of which, as anything other than the result of an illusion or hallucination, is never completely guaranteed. On the other hand, these concepts and relations, and indeed the postulation of real objects and generally speaking of the existence of the real world, have justification only insofar as they are connected with sense impressions between which they form a mental connection. The very fact that the reality of our sense experiences is such that by means of thinking operations with concepts and the creation and use of definite functional relations between them, and the coordination of sense experiences to these concepts, it can be put in order. This fact is one which leaves us in awe, but which we shall never understand. One may say the eternal mystery of the world is in comprehensibility. It is one of the great realizations of Immanuel Kant, that the postulation of a real external world would be senseless without this comprehensibility. In speaking here of comprehensibility, the expression is used in its most modern sense. It implies The production of some sort of order among sense impressions, this order being produced by the creation of general concepts, relations between these concepts, and by definite relations of some kind between the concepts and sense experience. It is in this sense that the world of our sense experiences is comprehensible. The fact that it is comprehensible is a miracle. In my opinion, nothing can be said a priori concerning the manner in which the concepts are to be formed and connected and how we are to coordinate them to sense experiences. In guiding us in the creation of such an order of sense experiences, success alone is a determining factor. All that is necessary is to fix a set of rules, since without such rules, the acquisition may compare these rules with the rules of a game in which, while the rules themselves are arbitrary, it is their rigidity alone which makes the game possible. However, the fixation will never be final. It will have validity only for a special field of application, i.e., there is no final categories in the sense of Kant. The connection of the elementary concepts of everyday thinking, which complexes of the experiences can only be comprehended intuitively, and it is unadaptable to scientifically logical fixation. The totality of these connections, none of which is expressible in conceptual terms, is the only thing which differentiates the great building which is science from a logical but empty sense or scheme of concepts. By means of these connections, the purely conceptual propositions of science become general statements about complexes of sense experiences. We shall call primary concepts, with which, as are directly and intuitively connected with typical complexes of sense experiences. All other notions are, from the physical point of view, possessed of meaning only insofar as they are connected to propositions with the primary notions. These propositions are partially definitions of the concepts of the statements derived logically from them, and partially propositions not uh, derivable from the definitions, which express at least indirect relations between the primary concepts, and in this way between sense experiences. Propositions of the latter kind are statements about reality or laws of nature, i.e., propositions which have to show their validity when applied to sense experiences covered by primary concepts. The question as to which of these propositions shall be considered as definitions and which are natural and which as laws will depend largely upon the chosen representation. It really becomes absolutely necessary to make this differentiation only when one examines the degree to which the whole system of concepts considered is not empty from the physical point of view. So, yeah, Einstein kind of giving the idea how he feels physics interacts with the understood reality. He compares it with psychology. Yeah, psychology. And he's like, we have to understand these findings. It's not just we believe this or connecting these seems to fit here. He's pointing out there is so much more. But yeah, uh, that'll be it for now. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tries to tell you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I will cite any sources in the description below the video if I feel it is important. Um, but I appreciate y'all for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, later.